YouTube, the Houston Rockets currently sit at 16-8 in the Western Conference, and that makes them the third-ranked team in the West at the time of recording this video for the 2025 NBA season. This has left a lot of fans, excluding Rockets fans, because I know they've been so hopeful for their team this season, but I would say a lot of NBA fans are a little bit shocked on just how great the Rockets have been this season. Again, Rockets fans already know. They've been saying this to me all offseason long, watch out for the Rockets this year, and I thought they would be a play-in team or at least around a play-in team, but to be third ranked in the historically great Western Conference in 2025 is an absolute feat that should be analyzed and looked over, and that's what we're going to do in this video. I'm going to talk about what has led to the Rockets' dominance this season in the West, but more importantly, is it sustainable, and are the Houston Rockets to be taken seriously around playoff time as legit contenders? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Rockets fans, before we begin, let me know down in the comment section, how thrilled are you about your team's success? I'm really happy for you guys, and I was wrong. You guys are telling me all offseason this is going to be a great year, and I should have listened a little harder because you were right. Without further ado, let's get into the topics of the Houston Rockets and analyze their 2025 season so far and talk about whether or not they can continue it over 82 games. Let's get right into the video, folks. So, before we get into the big question of whether this team is a legit Western Conference contender, we have to see and analyze how they've been winning their games. In my opinion, that's a big factor into whether or not they can continue it. And you might say 16-8, that's a good record, but it's nothing too crazy. It's not like they're going to win 70 games or anything, but you have to keep in mind, this is the Western Conference. There are only 4 teams in the Western Conference that don't have a 500 or above record. And again, one of the stats I found so fascinating was that the Rockets, not only have they played the majority of their games against above 500 teams, they are 10-5 against those teams. So, again, it's important to remember this is the Western Conference here, and most of your games are going to be against, playoff caliber, like really good NBA teams, and to be 10-5 against those teams, leads me to believe that this team could be legit. Not only that, they're 6-3 handling their business against below sub 500 teams, so they're not going out there and, taking those games lightly. They're handling business against the kind of weaker teams, right? And so they're also 2-1 in overtime games, which another good statistic. This team is winning and closing out close games. We'll get into why they're doing it in a little bit, but I thought that was interesting, as well as the Rockets being 9-1 in games that finish within 10 points. So they're 9-1 basically in close games or relatively close games, which is an incredible, stat, especially in the Western Conference. Listen, these are important numbers here, okay? To be able to win against good teams, you're gonna have to do that in the playoffs, obviously. And so I know it's early in the season and I know it's only 24 games, but that is a good chunk of sample size to be able to judge for the Houston Rockets. And next thing we're going to do is look over their individual player stats, and then we'll get into their team stats, right? But for the individual players that are making all of this happen on the floor, they're just basically getting a lot of production from a very diverse group of contributors. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of players on this team giving quality production. This is a deep rotation at almost every position that Coach Ime Udoka, who's done a fantastic job in my opinion, can trust on the floor at any given time. At the time of recording this, there are currently 7 players on the Rockets averaging double-figure scoring, which is absolutely mind-blowing. And all those 7 players have played over 20 games, so there aren't really any outliers there. They've been putting up double-digit scoring nights consistently, all 7 of these guys. Of course, I'm talking about Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, Fred VanVleet, Dillon Brooks, Thompson, Jabari Smith Jr., and Tari Eason. The top 3 scorers are Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, and Fred VanVleet. We're all not only scoring a lot, but contributing lots of other things to the game other than scoring. Fred VanVleet is a fantastic playmaker, currently, running this offense efficiently and precisely. He is averaging 16 points, 6 assists on 1 turnover per game. So he has a 6-to-1 turnover ratio basically, which is absolutely incredible. He has been one of the driving forces of this offense. Alperen Sengun, another great playmaker for his position. He's averaging 18.5 points, about 11 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal and a block on 2 turnovers per game. Those are all-star numbers, especially when you are currently 3rd ranked in the Western Conference. If the all-star voting was tomorrow, you would have to get in as a center. I know there's some great centers in the West, but man, he is playing winning basketball as, in my opinion, the best player on this team night in and night out, leading them to a 3rd ranked Western Conference position. Jalen Green, of course, we know he's going to be a great scorer, the leading scorer on this team, averaging almost 20 points per game, but at times he has stepped up defensively, and I think that is something to really note, because when you look at Jalen Green's efficiency numbers, they might not be the best offensively, but it's important to remember that he has stepped up his effort and intensity, and honestly, in my opinion, the games that I've watched watched of the Rockets, he's been fairly successful guarding the perimeter. Alperen Sengun has also been labeled a bad defender throughout his career. He has been much better defensively, in my opinion. Numbers might not always reflect these guys' defensive contributions. We'll get into the defense a little later. What's so incredible for this team, and one of the numbers that I think is very important, there isn't a whole lot of like jaw-dropping efficiency numbers from these scorers. Like, a lot of these players aren't shooting very efficiently, and they're still 16-8 in a historically great West. They're still 10-5 against above 500 teams. Another indicator that their success can translate, because they're not just getting hot night to night, out shooting the other team. Those kinds of things can be outliers. This team is grinding through their wins, and they're finding ways to win regardless of their matchup and regardless of how they're shooting. As a team, they're just not shooting that well, but they continue to win at a rapid pace. So those are some notable individual numbers. Now let's get into the team stats. This is one of the things I use to determine a lot of whether or not a team can continue winning the way they are, or is it a fluke. First of all, over a 24 game sample size, you going 16-8, it's really hard to call that a fluke when you're winning against such good teams night to night. So that kind of fluke narrative's out of the window for me already. But can they be the third ranked team by the end of the season? Can they be a legit contender in the playoffs? That's really what we're here to answer, and team stats are a good way to calculate that, in my opinion. As I said, the Rockets are currently third in the West with a 16-8 record, but they're also tied for fifth in the entire NBA with a 16-8 record. And we talked about this. Their offense hasn't been revolutionary, to say the least. They have a lot of deep, scoring rotation guys that contribute good offense. They don't have a premier superstar averaging 30 a night. That's not how they rely on their offense. It is always a group effort, and they try to run it efficiently as they can. But with all that being said, they're still top half of the league in points per game as a unit. They are 13th in the league in points per game with 113.6 points per game. To be able to be as dominant as they are defensively, which we'll get into in a little bit, and still have an above average offense, even if it's slightly above average, definitely impressive and definitely translatable in the future. They're really towards the bottom here in team field goal percentage. Like I said, they don't shoot the ball particularly well and particularly efficiently, but still, this is almost a positive thing rather than a negative. If I'm looking at how to judge this team moving forward, can they win when they're not shooting well? Well, they haven't really been shooting well all season compared to the rest of the NBA, and they're still, dominating the West. That is a really good sign that things can continue in this direction. They're 22nd in three-pointers made per game, and they are 17th in three-pointers attempted. They actually don't take a lot of three-point shots compared to the rest of the league, and they don't make nearly enough to where you'd say this is a great three-point shooting team, right? That especially rings true when you consider their three-point percentage as a team on average is 33%, and by far one of the worst in the league, currently ranked 26 at the time of recording this. One of the things they really do well offensively is get to the free throw line and knock those free throws down. They are currently fifth in the entire NBA in free throws made per game with about 19 free throws made per game. That is a lot of free throws, not only to be taking, but to be making. They are currently third in free throw attempts per game at 24. And even though they shoot the 23rd best free throw percentage, first of all, it's not by a huge margin either. The difference between a lot of these teams is negligible, but still they are quite effective from the free throw line night to night, which is a good sign of interior offense. One of the reasons they've been so good this season, night to night, this is something that translates on the road, at home, good teams, bad teams, is rebounding. I talk about this with the other team videos that I've made. If you can win 4 categories on any given night, you have about a 90 or 95% chance to win that game, and those categories are shooting, points in the paint, rebounding, and turnover differential. If you win 4 of those things, you're going to win almost every game. It's not even a question. The Rockets are currently first in the entire NBA in total rebounding, and at 49.9, so basically 50 rebounds per game as a team. That is crazy. They are first in offensive rebounding by a lot, and they are first in defensive rebounding by a little bit, and first in total rebound. I mean, this is, again, you're going to win so many games when you out rebound, your opponent. It is one of the biggest indicators night to night who's going to win a basketball game. Whoever wins the rebound battle, particularly if you can keep your turnovers down, even if you don't shoot that well, you get to the free throw line, you rebound the ball much better than your opponent, you commit to the defensive end of the floor, and you don't turn the basketball over, you're going to win so many games. That's why the Rockets are so good this season. And all of these stats that I'm showing are the biggest contributors to their winning, but they're also stats that can, again, translate in the playoffs, can translate against, top end matchups, right? Oklahoma City Thunder, the Boston Celtics, like, you can beat teams like this if you win rebounds and you don't turn the basketball over and you get to the free throw line. So I'm getting to my final point, which is that, we're not even done these stats here, but all of these stats indicate there is no question if you lead the league in rebounding and all these other stats I mentioned, you're going to be able to succeed, not just for the first 24 games, but for the rest of the season. This is going to be one of the top teams in the league. If they just continue playing how they're playing, it's not even a question. question. Offensively, they have to be a little bit better if they want to continue, winning a little bit more decisively, and, particularly come playoff time, they're just going to need to play better offensively. Currently 28th in the league in assists per game, not great, but they're 7th in the league in turnovers. And so with, 13 per game, that is really, really good. They're going to out-rebound you, they're going to win the turnover battle, they're going to get to the free throw line, and so you don't really even have to shoot that well, as we've laid out here, if you're going to do all those things night to night, even against really good basketball teams. And that's why their, total point differential for the season and plus minus is 7, positive 7. And so, but in my opinion, a lot of this comes down to defense. They are 2nd in the league in defensive rating at 105. We mentioned the rebounds, the defensive rebounds. They are 1st in the league. That's part of defense, obviously. They are 6th in the NBA in blocks per game. They are 12th in the league in steals per game. They allow the 4th least opponent's points per game off of turnovers, which is another really important stat. They get back in transition. They are one of the best fast break teams on both ends of the floor in the league. They are currently 2nd in the entire league in opponent fast break points. They only allow 12 of them per game. So they're committing to the defensive end of the floor, getting those athletes out in transition defensively and stopping the ball in transition. They are fantastic at that. It's very, very crucial that you do that as a young team that's athletic, and they're about middle of the league in opponents points per game in the paint. And another key crucial category, I mentioned points in the paint battle, turnover battle, shooting battle, and rebounding battle. They have about 3 of those secured by a big margin night to night. We talk about this with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Everybody says, oh, I don't believe in them, they're a fluke. They're currently 21-3 at the time of recording this. Listen, you don't have to believe in them, but all of the stats and numbers do, because they are dominating the NBA in all 4 of those categories, and hence why they're 21-3. I made that video when they were 9-0, and people said, this is not going to continue. The Celtics are going to be the #1 team in the league. They're currently 21-3. I don't know what to tell you. The Cavs are legit because of all those stats that they're winning night to night. The Rockets are the same exact thing, folks. They're outplaying above 500 teams in the most crucial stat categories every single night. It doesn't matter if they have a 30-point score. It doesn't matter that they shoot really bad according to the rest of the league's numbers. It's a winning recipe. You're 1st in the league in rebounds. You are excellent in turnovers, excellent transition on both ends. You get to the free throw line at an elite rate, and you have versatile players on both ends of the floor, about 7 of them, or 8 of them to be precise. They're athletic, and they are dynamic in all areas of the game. If they just play a little bit better offensively, if they shoot the basketball a little bit better from 3, this 100% will be a top 4 team in the Western Conference come playoff time. They will be a top 4 seed if they continue all these things that we mentioned in this video, and they shoot the basketball just a little bit better to give a little bit more leeway night to night against, elite opponents. So you're not leaving so much up to close games and finishing games and defensive production. You just have to allow a little bit more leeway with the shooting numbers. They have to be a little bit better, especially from 3. But other than that, this is a top 4 team in the entire Western Conference, top 7 or 6 team in the entire NBA at the moment, and they will stay that way until they prove me otherwise with those stats that I mentioned. There's no reason to think that this team come playoff time, if they shoot a little bit better from 3 and can get a little bit more efficiency out of, some of their best shooters, this is a legit contender in the West. I know people won't want to hear that. There's a ton of great teams in the West with a lot of more proven playoff talent, but that just won't matter if you get out rebounded by 15 per game or 10 per game or 5 per game, particularly on the offensive end of the floor, and you get outworked in transition, you get out hustled in, defensive transition, you foul this team to the absolute limit and send them to the line, 25 times a game, and you can't win the turnover battle. I don't care what team it is. I don't care if it's the Mavericks or, the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are also dominating in all of those aspects. That would be a really good series to see at the moment. But people say the Rockets need another star, and maybe that's true offensively, and certainly could use a little bit more efficiency, particularly from the perimeter as the season progresses. A lot of these guys' shots just aren't going in. They need a little bit more spacing and a little bit more offensive pop. And in my opinion, that's the only thing you can knock on this team right now, is how the offense is shooting the basketball from the perimeter. But other than that, there is almost 0 takeaways that you can have that are negative, and almost 0 reason to believe they can't continue it for the rest of the season, even in a historically great Western Conference, especially when their record against a lot of these teams, above 500 teams, mostly in the West, are 10-5. And so you just can't say that this is a fluke, that this is, a team that's going to fizzle out if they keep playing like this. There's just no question. Hopefully, guys, enjoyed the video. Rockets fans, let me know down in the comment section if you are as confident as me that your team will continue to play like this for the rest of the season. Do you think you guys are legit contenders, or do you think you're one offensive star piece away from being in that conversation? I think, you guys are going to have a lot of success in the playoffs if you continue to play like this without another piece being added. You just have to shoot a little bit better. That's really the only thing, but you're winning regardless. ridiculous, but I think come playoff time, those margins will get a little bit tighter and your shooting performances will need to be a little bit better against certain competition. But that is not a, that's not to be negative about this whole thing. This is obviously a positive, majorly positive season for the Rockets so far. And in my opinion, it will continue. Rockets fans, let me know down in the comments. You guys were right. I was wrong. Thank you for, being so hopeful. You guys are one of the best fan bases on the channel that I have dealt with personally, because every video I make about the Rockets or talk about the Rockets fans always show up and they're always just as passionate about, their team as I am about mine. And I really respect that. And I love to see that from fan bases. And again, the Rockets fans you guys have just really stood out to me as a, fan base that's always, so passionate about your team. And I really have gained a lot of, just a ton of respect for Rockets fans. I didn't know it was like that in Houston until I started making these videos. And so, hopefully we can continue that on this video. I want to see you guys in the comments. I want to see what you guys are thinking. I know you will. You guys will always show up for the channel and for your team. And so hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Leave a like on it if you did. All feedback, doesn't matter Rockets fan or not. You can obviously feel free to criticize anything I said in the video, any of my points, any of my ideas. Just don't be hateful or disrespectful. That's all. We don't have to do that to get our points across. Let me know down in the comment section. I'm genuinely curious to hear your guys' feedback. I always love talking hoops. Other than that, again, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. We're gonna be uploading a lot more consistently on this channel. I can't wait to share all the stuff I have planned for you guys on the channel. So make sure you guys stay tuned, subscribe, post notifications turn on. We're on the road to 15K subs. Tell a friend about the channel, get more people involved. I love you guys so much. Thank you for all of the support. Thank you guys for making it all the way to the end. And hopefully you guys have a fantastic rest of your day today. This has been the Rockets Are Legit Contenders. This is your boy D-Have, and as always, peace.